Okay, the following that I'm going to read is from an interview with Gil Kane, published in 1986. This was originally published in the FA Comic Zine. Gil Kane. Alex Toth, Carmine, and Joe Kubert. All of us were within a year or two of each other. In fact, most of us went to school together, and we all had different stages of development. Kubert was precocious and developed ahead of everybody else, and yet the thing that's developed for him over the last 30 years is that he's become a richer inker, and yet his conceptions, his penciling conceptions, I find are pretty much the same as they were 30, 35 years ago. When he does, say, a Hawkman story, you know it's never as effective as the stuff he did in the 40s, when his conceptions were pure and his drawing wasn't so hot. So his inking is richer. The black, the play of the skin tone, and the modeling quality that just drives you crazy. Steve.
Not being familiar with his 40s work, I'm not in a position to judge, but I find it hard to agree with you about Kubert's Hawkman. However, sticking with the issue, it does seem that, as you've been saying, people were using certain artists as role models during the Golden Age, and the minute they shifted away from the superhero books, they moved toward a completely new set of ideals, say from 1947-48. Everyone with a career bringing that rift seems to have had a 40s style, yourself included.
Gil. Oh yes. Steve.
And suddenly in the 50s everybody's drawing differently? You mentioned before about Infantino having always had that fine line style we all know so well, but if you look at Infantino in the 40s, he has a really thick, chunky art style, which is radically different from his later stuff.
Gil. That's because he was using a brush in those days and he was heavy-handed. That's why he couldn't use a pen. He got scratchy lines out of it, and it's because he couldn't control it at all. That was my problem too. I'd either mash the nib flat or I'd touch it too lightly. The good inkers were people like Joe Kubert, who could handle a pen and a brush, were never intimidated by them, and could use them like a watercolorist.
Steve. Were you ever inked by Joe Kubert?
Gil. I'm not sure. I think there was one. Yes! As a matter of fact, I was. Carmine and Joe took on Avon's Jesse James for a while, and Carmine and I were partners again after the war, only we reversed the partnership. He did the breakdowns and I tightened his pencils up. Then Joe inked it. We were trying to make money at the time. Steve.
Those Jesse James comics had a lot of Everett Raymond Kinstler's work in them. Did you?
Gil. I never cared much for Kinstler. I always thought he was a complete phony baloney. He was just a fake with a real fallacy for rendering and clearly had no interest in storytelling other than to swipe figures or anything else. His inking was powerful though, and it even improved once he stopped following Raymond and started swiping Kubert. His style became so loose at that point I felt it was bordering on painting.